It's almost July and I'm in a jacket here in the garden. This is one of those years where things just keep going wrong and we're having challenge after challenge on the homestead. So let's talk for a minute about challenges on the homestead. You know, a homesteading life is definitely not for sissies. If you're gonna get turned off by things going wrong or problems or challenges, things you have to problem solve, then this is probably not the life for you, because one way or another, when you combine human beings and nature and animals and plants, you're gonna have things that absolutely go wrong. This season is a great example of this. Here we are, it's almost July, and it's cold out, and it's been cold out all spring. We have not yet had solid warm weather, and when you're somebody who depends on your vegetable garden, that is not a good thing. The other thing that's going on is that we keep getting rain. We have gotten so much rain. This down here is a pasture. Right now it doesn't look like a pasture, it looks like a pond. This is not supposed to be a pond, this is supposed to be a pasture. We have tried for 2 years to get this pasture going and growing. Last year, it got incredibly hot and incredibly dry really early, and it baked all of our seed that we had put out for that pasture. This year, instead of it being hot and dry, it's now just raining and raining more and more. The zucchini right here, for this time of year, I should be starting to get maybe blossoms on my zucchini. You guys, I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't even know if we're gonna get zucchini this year because it's so wet and so cold, it just doesn't feel like growing. The only things that are growing happily are the things that love cool, wet weather. Things like the greens. It's about all that we're getting right now. I just wanted to take a moment and talk to you guys about the reality of depending on nature. It's a hard thing to depend on, and this is the reason why farmers historically had such challenges, because they never knew what the weather was going to do. So what do you do when it all goes sideways and nothing's working quite the way that you picture that it's going to work? Well, this is why there used to be a lot of sayings about being careful with your resources. One old saying that I can think of right now is to always keep at least 2 years worth of seed. The reason for that is you never know when you're gonna have a crop failure and you're gonna have to plant again without being able to harvest new seed. So it's really important to look at some of the old wisdom when you're going back to depending on the land. You know, I hear from people all the time, oh, I've got a big can of seeds down in the basement, one of those, you know, prepper cans of seeds. And they think when it all goes bad, if I can't go to the grocery store, I'm just gonna grow a garden. And to me, that is a really scary thought, because if you are not used to working with a garden in normal situations, what are you gonna do under a stressful situation, maybe where you're depending on it? But what if that also happens to be a year that the weather's not cooperating with you? You've got to build the skill and the redundancy in your systems to be able to handle problems. What do I mean by redundancy? Well, this is not the only pasture that we have in order to graze animals. We have other pasture that's up on higher land where it is not underwater, where we can graze animals. We have a redundancy. We have multiple solutions to the same problem. We also always store extra food and not just 1 year's worth of food. Anytime I have a crop that does really, really well, I store up to 2 years worth of food from that crop in storage the best I can, so that if we have a failure the next year, we still have something that we can eat from our own garden. Fruit is a great example of that. Sometimes you have bumper years of apples, and sometimes you get no apples. Every time it's a bumper crop year, put up 2 years worth so that you can always be ahead a year. Yes, you want to rotate them out, you want to make sure that they're good quality still, but you do want to get ahead on your storage. So it's really important to ask yourself, what if? what if this went wrong? Or what if that went wrong? We don't want to live or stop and stay in a state of what if in a way that creates fear. But we do want to sit down and analyze our situation. What is our position if we have a drought year? What's our position if we have a flood year? What's our position if we can't get groceries at the grocery store or meat at the grocery store? And what's our position if all of a sudden grocery store food is the cheapest thing that we have and it makes more sense than growing our own? We really need to contemplate all of those what ifs and think about where we're positioned. That way we can have a strategic spot, right? We want to be strategic about what we're doing. You also don't want to be blindsided. Now, there's always things that are going to come out of nowhere, throw you out of whack and like totally confuse the situation. But if you're thinking ahead and you're analyzing your options, then you can actually mitigate a lot of that. Another saying that comes to mind is those who are prepared are usually spared. It's not because they don't experience the same hardship as other people around them. It's just that they're prepared for it, so they don't have the same problems that come from that hardship. So you guys, if you're having a year like us, where the garden's not doing so great, the pastures aren't doing so great, we even lost our dairy calf this year due to some physical abnormality in the forming calf. It didn't make it past just being born. And so if you're having a year like that, take heart. Next year will probably be different, but keep moving forward, keep finding solutions, keep looking around you and analyzing what you can do right now in order to move forward and to learn from what you're experiencing and do better next year. Now, one bright thing that I've got to say here is if you see all the wood chips down on the garden, they are soaking up all of this rain, and we do not have mud anywhere in the gardens, even though we've got so much rain. So even if you're feeling a little bit discouraged, keep moving your systems forward. It's going to pay off in the long run.